You know, I feel like the moment I get back to doing Mega Force with Master Zen and Urban Ninja, that I'm gonna need this shirt to protect my spirit. What is going on, you guys? Here's your truly Master Sakurai here. So this was also another reaction request that was sent by another member of the Sakurai clan, another proud member of the Sakurai clan, and I didn't know nothing about this, but this came around in February 2017 by the Angry Video Game Nerd on his main channel, Cinema Snare. Well, not Cinema Snare, but I keep saying Cinema Snare. Cinema Massacre. Cinema Massacre. Jesus Christ, I can't say that right. I'm sorry, y'all. It's like 12:48 at night. I know, I keep doing this to myself. But yeah, this is part 1. And you know what? I feel like we're just going to have to do part 1 and 2 in the same goddamn video. Like, because, yeah, might as well just do that. Alright, so, without further ado, this is it. Power Rangers, a news review, part 1 and 2. Okay?
Here's some confessions from a nerd. I have never seen Power Rangers. Yeah, meaning I've seen only clips and have never watched a full episode.
Wow.
But that's about to change. I'm going to check it out and give you my first impressions. Now keep in mind, I'm seeing this for the first time as an adult. I can never go back in time and see it as a kid the way it was intended. I can never be as nostalgic and as well seasoned with it as many fans may be.
Well, that's surprising.
I still have a personal history and experience with it. A very misguided experience, which I'd like to share. So if you're already a big fan of the show, you might not learn any new information from me, but you'll probably get a unique perspective. And if you're a noob like me, then you can come share the discovery. I've been aware of the show's existence since the very beginning. Its impact was phenomenal. It was as popular as Transformers or Ninja Turtles.
Yes, it was, and it still is.
Franchises that I loved as a kid, but somehow with Power Rangers, I missed the boat. I may have been a little bit too old or was too busy getting into horror movies and monster movies. When you obsess over something, it usually means you miss out in something else.
True.
Also, I've always had a tendency to ignore whatever is the newest popular thing. I got annoyed with it. I specifically remember it being the most popular Halloween costume. Here is actual footage from Halloween '94. My friend's younger brother came to my party with this costume, and all I could think is, oh, it's that stupid Power Rangers show. Even with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when I first heard the title, I thought it sounded like the dumbest thing ever. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Like Park Rangers? Morphin? What does that mean? Looking back, it sounds like morphine. I wrote it off as just a kid's show and moved past it. I was more adult, more cool. Now let me watch my Godzilla movies. My first touch of regret happened a few years after the show made its mark. A group of friends and I were sitting around watching TV. We flipped through some channels and happened to land on Power Rangers, but only for a moment. What I saw was a giant robot fighting a rubber suit monster in a city. My friends were making fun of it, saying, oh, it's that stupid Power Rangers show, so cheesy. And I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute, this looks awesome. It was just like a Godzilla movie. It was not what I expected. In the 90s, I was the only Godzilla fan I knew. Nobody else liked this shit, and that only fired me up and made me like it more. Rubber suit monsters. That's what life is all about. Think it looks cheesy? Well, fuck you. Then wait, you're telling me one of the most popular shows on TV is all about rubber suit monsters? This was a major contradiction. You know what I was doing when Power Rangers was on? I was ordering Laserdisc to VHS transfers from Japan of the newest Godzilla films and any other obscure monster movies.
You see, that's what I'm getting ready to say. Like, you know, back then you wouldn't think that there was like a big following of people who liked those certain kinds of shows and movies back then, because like Godzilla, stuff like Power Rangers, VR Troopers, Big Bad Beetleborgs, freaking Kamen Rider, right? Ultraman, like Space Sheriff Gavin, like, what's another one? I've already said Big Bad Beetleborgs. I said VR Troopers. But yeah, that stuff, like, all of that stems from rubber suit monsters and people in suits doing this kind of footage, and it's just like no one would ever expected for it to get that big of a following, and here we are, all these years later, we're getting a CGI Godzilla movie, another CGI. We're getting CGI Godzilla movies. This one that's coming out is going to be him versus King Kong, right? They're still doing Power Rangers, and Kamen Rider is now popular. Is now starting to get even more popular because people are starting to realize that there's more to tokusatsu than just Power Rangers and Super Sentai, because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that came along with that. Even more stuff that has been discontinued, that hasn't really been shown. You know, time flies. Like, and I think about like another thing about what he was saying about, like, you know, not being interested in certain shows when they came out. That's me too. That was me too. At one point, there was at one point where I was not a big fan of, like, other kinds of shows, and I was the kid that still stuck to my cartoons and stuff like stuff of this nature. But I was never that person. I was that person that also was like, oh, it's that stupid TV show, like for that, like BET or stuff like that. I wasn't that type of kid. I was the kid that was interested in the cartoons, the rubber suit monsters, all that good stuff. That was my home, and it still is my home, as you can see from looking at my room. So yeah, that makes sense. I get where the nerd's coming from. I definitely get it.
All I had to do was turn on the TV and I'd see a new monster every week.
Mm-hmm.
Then I heard something crazy. A new piece of information that would completely change my view of Power Rangers. The show was made in Japan. But the next time I caught a glimpse of the show, I saw something that resembled a TV sitcom with teenagers. This couldn't be the same show. It looked like a Saved by the Bell knockoff. It was silly and dumb, but not in any of the ways I wanted it to be. It definitely was not Japanese. It looked like the most American show you could possibly see. So then I was confused and continued to disregard it. Sometime after the internet age began, I became increasingly aware that Power Rangers was something that would have been right up my alley, but the idea of watching it cold and trying to catch up after all these years seemed too daunting. As the demands of adulthood grew, I wondered, did I miss my opportunity? Would it still appeal to me today? I have to find out. Alright, it's been on the list for years, and now I'm finally looking into it. First of all, is the show Japanese or is it American? Apparently it's both.
Yes.
Generally the monster scenes were shot in Japan, while the scenes with the teenagers were in the United States. That makes enough sense. But wait, the Japanese footage was recycled from a completely separate show called Super Sentai. The plot thickens. So there's two different shows, both coexisting and both still going on to this very day. Does that mean I have to watch Super Sentai also? Absolutely. Oh man, now there's two shows I want to watch. I feel like my responsibility just doubled. I feel like I gave birth to twins. Wait, Super Sentai began in 1975 and it's still going on to this very day?
Yes.
They've been making episodes consistently for the past 42 years.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna die. The basic concept
I'm gonna
of Super
die.
Sentai is a team of ordinary humans are transformed into superheroes. They wear color-coded costumes and save the Earth from evil monsters. This description naturally sounds like Power Rangers, but it also sounds like Kamen Rider, which is from the same creator. Basically, if you have a bunch of people in motorcycle suits flipping around in the air with explosions, lasers, and sparks shooting all over, you know the deal. The deal is, it's fucking awesome.
Yes, it is.
Spectre-Man? Dude, that shit is crazy. How about the Toei Spider-Man? Yeah, it's Spider-Man with giant giant robots. Then there's Ultraman, which is pretty much where it all started. That was 1966, and the Ultra series is still going on today also. It was created by A.G. Tsuburaya, the special effects pioneer who we have to thank for making Godzilla. Godzilla once fought alongside an Ultraman-type character called Jet Jaguar, and Godzilla appeared in many Zone Fighter episodes, along with other characters from the Godzilla franchise, including Gigan and King Ghidorah. The same Japanese superhero genre which spawned Power Rangers is intertwined with the Godzilla franchise. And if we haven't opened up a big enough can of worms already, these franchises fall under the umbrella term tokusatsu. This is a mother genre which generally includes any films that rely heavily on special effects.
Yes.
Such as giant monster movies, of course, which I've always known as Daikaiju films. Then you have human-sized monster films like The Manster, superhero series like Super Sentai, space films like Green Slime, mecha series which are about giant robots controlled by people like Gunhead, the Giant Robo series, and even this crosses over into the Godzilla franchise with characters such as Mecha Godzilla and Mecha Ghidorah. And then you take it a step further with Combiner Robots, which plays a big part in Power Rangers. It's robots that come together to form bigger robots like Voltron and Transformers. And now we're getting into animation. Anime. Holy fuck. This is bad for me. You know that, right? When it comes to this stuff, I can't stop. I'm like an alcoholic. I was doing good, but now I'm over my head. I gotta settle down. Alright, we're talking Power Rangers here. Or how about this? I watched just the first season. That's it. Just one season.
That's fine.
Let's see if it's on Netflix. Oh good, it is. Let's check it out.
Yeah, about that.
It's 60 episodes. 60 fucking episodes? You think that's enough? For one season? Been wanting to get schooled in Power Rangers, but too overwhelmed. Decide to watch just the first season. Lo and behold, it's 60 episodes. Oh man, I need help. Dude, I got you covered.
Oh, Linkara!
Linkara? Hey, didn't I debate that guy one time on who would win in a fight? Mechagodzilla or Megazord? Even though I had no idea who Megazord was? Well, anyway, he's reviewed everything Power Rangers, so let this be my guide to the show. Yeah. Do I need a guide for the guide? And Netflix has two different versions of the first season. There's the original and the remastered series. Do I have to watch that too?
Plot-wise, nothing is different about them, and frankly, I see no reason to watch 60 episodes of the same show twice just for sparkles.
Oh, thank God. Anyway, I'm going to begin watching Power Rangers. Something that was meant to be watched once a week over the course of 20 years, I'm going to consume it all at once. Wish me luck.
All right. Yep, that's what you gotta do. Just take notes, Pam. Just take the
Power Rangers. Go Power Rangers. Go Power Rangers.
Okay, yeah, we're definitely doing part 2. We are definitely doing part 2 right the freak now. Come on, video load. Thank you.
Go Power Rangers. Go Power Rangers. Go Power Rangers. Oh man, I think I've caused myself serious mental damage. This was way too much to ingest all at once. But I'm now familiar with the show. I've skimmed through the first 3 seasons, plus I've seen the first 2 movies. With the first season, I watched the first 30 episodes straight, and after that I realized it would be impossible to finish.
Oh, he really got invested.
2 and 3 to close out the Mighty Morphin era.
Oh,
I watched
wow.
the majority of the rest of them in fast speed, stopping only to watch the most important episodes based on what Linkara and the internet in general seem to recommend the most. When I say I'm now familiar with the show, I mean I can now finally distinguish all the names like Goldar, Zords, Zordon, and Zordled. I mean, Lord Zed. Why do they have to sound so similar? The basic gist, if you're new to this too, it's about 5 normal teenagers who are active in gymnastics, martial arts, and working out. They're recruited to fight against evil by the good guy Zordon, a blue floating head who operates in a base situated on top Vasquez rocks. Look at that. Look at that. They just slapped it on there. Oh, that's great. He has an assistant named Alpha 5 who I can't stand. All he says is, ay, 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 and it gets really annoying really fast. I like the design. The lights on his body are shimmering and always in motion like an elaborate Christmas display. I mean, it's a pretty spectacular looking robot, but I've just had enough with that voice. The main villain who prompts Zordon into enlisting the teenagers is an alien witch with a cone bra who's been floating around space in a garbage can for many years. To be exact, 10,000 years, as you'll be reminded at the start of every episode. Her name is Rita. Rita. It's like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The wizard named Tim. There are some who call me Tim. Of course, her full name is Rita Repulsa, and that's pretty fitting. Anyway, Zordon gives the teenagers power coins, which they redeem at the video arcade to get lots of free games. No, that would be silly. He turns them into color-coded superheroes wearing spandex suits and motorcycle helmets, and gives them the powers of ancient animals like a saber-toothed tiger, mastodon, and dinosaurs, but they're all robots. The show just started, and we're already talking about robot dinosaurs. What else could possibly happen in 23 seasons? I have no fucking idea. So these ancient robot animals are called zords, and they don't do much other than come running out of volcanoes and shit looking awesome. The reason they don't do much is because they don't have time. Right away, they all combine together to form Megazord, and that's when shit gets really crazy. I actually had to stop watching and take a break. It's too much. Like, when does watching this sort of thing start to feel normal? I find it really amusing how the Power Rangers can't say anything without punching and doing all this shit in the air. It's like, can't they stand still for 1 second? Also, I can't get over how many times they say the word power. This is your Power Lance, a weapon of great power. This is the Power Sword, key to all the weapons' powers. You can make a drinking game out of it. I wonder if they had a subscription to Nintendo Power. The terminology in this show gets nuts. In the episode Oyster Stew, they actually use the term oysterizer. Dude, oysterizer. There's also Bulk and Skull. These are the comedy characters. They're completely exaggerated, especially with Skull's high-pitched Riddler laugh. They're always getting hit by pies and cakes. Everything they say or do is usually followed up with cartoon sound effects. They're often trying to figure out the true identity of the Power Rangers, but other than that, they're just comic relief. I had no idea they would be main characters of the show. This surprised me. They even become police officers later on, and they almost got their own show. I don't really know what to think of them. They're kind of lovable in a silly way, but I don't feel like they belong. You're watching a show about superheroes fighting monsters, and then all of a sudden a slapstick tornado comes flying in to wreck every other scene. As expected, the most appealing part of the show for me is the monster battles. I've compared the effects to Godzilla, but it'll be more accurate to compare them to Gamera. If you've seen a lot of the Gamera films, you'll notice the effects are much cheaper and the monster designs are a lot more ridiculous. You have a monster with a saw on its head. But let's get even more ridiculous. In Power Rangers, you have a turtle with a traffic light on its head. Or an upside-down pumpkin head. There's a new monster just about every week, and they're all absurd. And they talk. If I saw this as a kid, I would have lost my shit. Imagine a Gamera villain saying things like, "Have a nice trip," and the Pumpkinhead raps. There's even a Frankenstein monster. I so badly want to invent a time machine to go back to my teenage self and scream in my ear, "What are you doing? Watch this show!" My only complaint is that the monsters don't interact with the buildings very much, but I can understand that it's a TV budget. They do smash the buildings every now and then, especially later in the 3rd season, and whenever that happens, I get excited. I just love seeing practical effects. You can tell when something is actually getting destroyed on camera, rather than being animated on a computer. I also have to comment on the Megazord costume. Considering how bulky this thing looks, the actor inside is actually able to get a lot of movement out of it. In every episode, the Power Rangers fight a bunch of people in gray spandex called the Putties, which are made from turds baked in a cookie mold. Then they fight a wisecracking monster who grows into a larger monster, and they call the Zords to form Megazord, and the episode switches drastically into giant Japanese monster battle mode. A giant power sword is summoned, which comes out of thin air into Megazord's hand in a flashy light show. The enemy monster is finished off, falling face first. We jump cut to a burst of sparks in the monster's place. We usually get a low angle shot looking up at Megazord being victorious, and the whole time that energizing metal theme song is rocking you senseless. It's almost reminiscent of Iron Maiden. One episode is all it takes to get stuck in your head, let alone hundreds. When you hear "Go Go Power Rangers," you're thinking, yeah, damn straight, go Power Rangers! After watching a ton of these, I started to feel like I was watching the same thing over and over again, and parts of it, I actually was. The sequence where the Zords form Megazord is the same recycled footage repeated every episode. After a while, they start abridging the footage so you don't have to see the whole Zord sequence, but if you were a latecomer just tuning in, it wouldn't make any sense at all. It just looks like a bunch of random shit flashing together. This shameless footage recycling surprisingly took a long time to get old for me, only because it's so awesome. The shot where the T-Rex Zord comes out of the volcano is very well executed. The fire and heat distorts the image. It's a great touch. I also like the saber-toothed tiger. It looks like a runaway action figure. It all looks like a toy commercial, not just the fact that the Zords are all miniatures, but the way it's paced. With all the fast editing and in-your-face camera angles, it sort of escalates the style of toy commercials into a pop art. And once the Dragon Zord is introduced, oh my, this thing is really cool. This could have totally fit in with the Godzilla universe.
Oh yeah.
And then there's all these different Zord combinations, like Thunder Megazord. Yeah, just simple Megazord's no longer enough. And then there's Ultra Zord, who has a massive Ultra Boner. At the start of the second season, Lord Zed becomes the main villain. What do you say about this guy? Just look at him. His brain is exposed, he's got no skin, and he's wearing metal underwear. He walks like he took a dump in them. And look, duct tape. There's totally duct tape on his staff. Later on, Rita comes back, and the two of them get married. Did not expect that. Lord Zed was not originally part of Sentai. He was created specifically for Power Rangers. As mentioned, the show partly uses recycled footage from Super Sentai, and it's fun to pick out which footage is recycled and which is original. The scenes with the monsters and special effects are usually Super Sentai, and the scenes with the American actors are original footage for Power Rangers. It's a lot like the first Godzilla movie, how they filmed new scenes with Raymond Burr for the American version. They could have just redubbed it, but I guess they wanted to make it more appealing for American audiences. I find it interesting to try and identify the Sentai footage. It would be an extended project, but I would really love to watch through a season of Super Sentai and compare the two shows. I can tell the obvious things. For instance, whenever we see Bronson Cave or Vasquez Rocks, we know it was shot in America. It's interesting to see how American and Japanese scenes cut together. For example, the main cast will be at Bronson Cave, then a fight breaks out, and all of a sudden the background changes to a generic, dry, rocky landscape. It looks similar enough to pass, but we know we just leaped across the Pacific. Rita was originally part of the Sentai footage. They just dubbed her. She never shares any scenes with the American cast, at least not early on. What I find real interesting is the actor who plays Rita gets changed quite a bit, but the voice actor stays the same. You're seeing a different face, but hearing the same voice. I was almost fooled. Is it her? Is it not? It plays with your mind. Also, I could be wrong, but I think they shipped some of the Sentai monster costumes overseas to complete more scenes for Power Rangers, and since the costumes had already been used, they probably had more damage, like they got the sloppy seconds. If so, this may be the reason there's some scenes where Goldar's mouth is malfunctioning. It moves by some kind of animatronic or puppeteer work, and in most scenes it works decent, but there's a lot of times in what seems like localized footage where the mouth is stuck open, moving only a little. And this is really funny to see when he's talking in that growly voice.
Oh, you think you're going to save your friend, don't you? You gave up too easily. You're all in trouble now. Oh, you've just given the dragon dagger to me.
Oh, no! Also, Super Sentai had the habit of changing the Ranger suits every season, and each season was given a different title, like Zoo Ranger, Die Ranger, and when Power Rangers started, Super Sentai was already on its 16th season, or series, or whatever you want to call it. It was already a success in Japan, so when Power Rangers came along and was also a success internationally, it seemed they didn't want to risk losing that success, so they didn't change it as much. The point is, a lot of the action footage of the Rangers in the suits was from Sentai. It was the Japanese actors, since you couldn't recognize them in the suits anyway. They just redubbed the voices. But they couldn't do that anymore after the suits changed. Not that they couldn't, but they chose not to. So they continued to use the old suits and had to come up with all these sneaky ways to adapt the footage they had, to reshoot, re-edit footage, and work around whatever curveballs Super Sentai would throw that year. And to this very day, that tradition still continues. I find that very impressive. Still, there's a lot of things that do change. About halfway into the first season, there's the introduction of a Green Ranger, who summons the Dragon Zord by playing the flute with a knife. In the second season, he loses his power and he goes away, but he comes back shortly as the White Ranger, who has this hilarious talking sword. The White Ranger suit was in tune with the Sentai Die Ranger suits, so while they didn't upgrade the rest of the Rangers, they at least used one of the same suits, which meant they could use Japanese footage of the White Ranger. Also, halfway into Season 2, 3 of the Ranger cast members are changed out because of contractual reasons, but they acknowledge it. Zordon transfers their power over to the new Rangers, but they go on wearing the same costumes. It's like the band Kiss, switching out members but keeping the same personas. It's a shame. I was just starting to like these characters, and deep into the third season, Kimberly goes too. I can imagine exactly how this must have felt if you watched this as a teenage boy.
Oh, I was crushed.
It felt like there's this girl in your class who you really like and who you're just starting to know.
I was fucking crushed.
To another school. Damn. Over time, Power Rangers started adapting more to Sentai, updating the suits and accepting the change that came with every season. Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers Turbo, and so on. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie came in between the second and third season. I heard it was non-canon and didn't follow the continuity of the show, so I assumed it didn't matter what order I watched it in, so I decided to watch it while I was still halfway into the first season. When I saw the new Ranger characters, I figured that was just the lack of continuity everyone was talking about. Then I saw the second season and how all these characters were introduced, and now I wish I watched it in order. Whether it's canon or not, it does follow the progression of the show.
Right.
Anyway, this is one of those certain kind of movie adaptations that could only exist in the 90s. It just has that wacky nature. It kind of reminds me of the Super Mario Brothers movie. It has that same level of quality. It's garbage, but it's delightful. It looks like a more cinematic version of the show, which it should. You can tell everything's been updated to be more like movie quality, but it still has the same cheesiness. The villain, Ivan Ooze, kind of reminds me of Freddy Krueger and the guy from the Nightmare board games. Rita, Lord Zed, and Goldar are all there too, so it's definitely over-cluttered with villains. The biggest takeaway thing I have to say about this film is during the third act, when all the action happens, it goes full CG. No practical effects, no Super Sentai stock footage to work with, obviously. But my God, this might be the worst CG I've ever seen in a mainstream film. It's mid-90s. I don't expect everything to look as great as Jurassic Park, which of course used practical effects in combination with its CG, but this looks horrible. It's worse than PlayStation 1 graphics. Even with bad practical effects, there's charm to it, but this has no charm. Or maybe it does. Does it? The second film, Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, occurs between the Zeo and Turbo series. Yeah, I skipped ahead, just so I can say I've seen all the movies. The first thing I took note of is that the Rangers don't get into the suits until about 30 minutes in. In the show, things are always happening fast, as if they think you have no patience whatsoever, but this movie does the opposite. It's more like anti-Turbo. There's a young kid who becomes the new Blue Ranger, but when he morphs into the suit, he grows into adult size. If they were going to use an adult for the action scenes, why'd they cast a kid at all? The main villain is Divatox, and look, there's no way around it. Her boobs are showing off in every scene. It's a major distraction.
It is.
These right here are the real stars of the film.
They are.
Kimberly and Jason come back, but the whole time
I can't even lie.
they're either captured or turned evil. There's some really weird creature effects. These wizard guys have these big, cute eyes. Aw, look at that. They kind of have this innocent expression, but I don't know what to make of it. Like, it's just bizarre. Then there's this villain henchman who always has this freaky grin. Oh, God, it's bugging me out. I think they did a great job creating these faces, but they don't move very much. There's not much of a range of expression, just a weird frozen face. The Megazord fight sequence, or should I say Turbo Megazord, is the highlight because the effects are practical. This rectifies the lousy CG from the first movie.
Yeah, they should have just did that
Upgraded
before.
for TV quality. This looks like what I'd expect. This is the movie version of the Megazord fight sequence. For this reason, I prefer Turbo over the first movie, but neither of them are very good. The new film, Power Rangers, is on the way shortly. I plan on seeing it, and I'm glad I now finally know something about the show. This was one of the reasons I kicked my ass into gear. My general impression from the trailers is that spirit, and also I hope it
I already know about this. Yeah.
Now that I'm familiar with the franchise, what can I say? How do I wrap this up? Well, it's a lot of fun. Is it for kids? Yes. Is it for cult monster fans? Yes.
Yes.
Is it stupid? Yes. Is it awesome? Yes. It's every contradictory thing I ever thought it would be. It made Japanese monsters popular in America, even if we didn't realize it.
Right.
And for that, I thank Power Rangers from the perspective of a noob, or should I say, a new fan.
Well, that's good to hear. That's definitely good to hear. I'm glad that somebody who didn't even bother watch Power Rangers like understands it and now likes it. Like, I am so happy to hear that. Yes, I'm not gonna lie. Power Rangers will always have its problems. Even in the Mighty Morphin days, I'm not gonna cap. They had lots of problems. But does that mean that I'm gonna hate it because of those problems? No, not at all. I recognize the problems and I still enjoy it, simply because of what it was and what it continues to be. But yeah, thank you guys so much for requesting this. Like, comment, subscribe. Go watch some more of the Angry Video Game Nerd stuff. Like, he does talk about a lot of stuff regarding the things that I like. But yeah, this has been Master of Sakurai. I'll see you guys next time. Megaforce is coming. Don't worry. It's coming. Sooner than you think. I'm out. Peace.